Ready? All right. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. We haven't done this in a while, this talk, because there are much bigger things I've been working on and you guys haven't really needed it. But there's a piece here that I see that is just exceedingly important. And I see some of you getting it and doing really well, and some of you having trouble, and not understanding why you're having trouble. So I felt if I took a little time and explained what it is that's going on, and how you can see it, and how you can address it, then it will make it easier. It could make a big difference. So let's start by saying that this is, in effect, the Magic 101 Lesson 2. I gave you Lesson 1 last time, and I asked you guys to review it. And in Lesson 1, I told you, among other things, that magic is real, that it happens, and that it works better with a magic wand, just like in the mythological Harry Potter. And that in this lifetime, the form that you wear is your magic wand. It is through this form that you channel the energies. It is with its physical senses and its meta senses that you sense. It is with the energy you pull into it and direct that you shape. It is with the physical and meta level sensing and flowing that you dance within the energies. Without this form, you would have a much harder time actually doing anything in this world. Now, there's a lot of things in that topic I'd like to talk about, but because this one is so fundamental, I'll start here. You make a choice early enough, Path, early in your work, to work in the light or to work in the shadow. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, the most obvious place to see that is in Star Wars. Right? Look at the guys who've been working on the light side of the Force for a long time. And even the older ones, they're graceful and beautiful. Even Yoda's beautiful in his own way. And they're good guys, they're good women. And then look at the ones in the shadow. Darth Vader, who can't breathe without all of the gear, and the Emperor, who looks just horrifying, and all of the older ones who work in the shadow, they just look corrupted and twisted. You see, that mythology, the Star Wars mythology, is based in a true story. Because this body is the magic wand. It's the focus through which you move the energy. And if you bring in your whole life, all of the darkest of energies, the fear, the anger, the violence, the horror, the shame, the guilt, the criticism, the abuse, and you bring that through your system, it changes your system. Right? Physically, it changes your system. When you're angry, it produces neurotransmitters that circulate through your system, neurochemical things that your kidneys then have to filter out. When you're nervous or tense, it increases your heart rate and tightens up the muscles of your body. The energies, the emotions you hold in this life, they shape your physical body. And a person who's tense for many years will get increasingly high blood pressure. A person who has what you might call a hard heart, angry, frustrated, for many years, will likely have a heart attack or heart failure. People who are tense or afraid or refusing to feel all the time, they get migraines. You guys know some of these things. You've seen some of them in your own life. All you have to do is sit down right now and start really resisting the energy moving in your body. You'll have a headache within just a few minutes. Right? Or just find something to be angry about and just sit and hold that anger for a few minutes. And you'll feel all the muscles in your body start to get tense, and you'll feel ugh. And the longer you do it, the longer you feel bad. It's not just the physical body. Your energy body also is shaped by the things you hold. Which is why Yoda can be this, I don't know, he's 1,000-year-old little green fellow with big ears. But he's always laughing and poking and playing and having fun, even though he's this great and powerful master. And say Darth Vader or the Emperor in that same program, they're always angry and bitter and lashing out, and their physical and emotional health is a wreck. It's true for you guys. If you are going to work magic that is shaping, sensing, sourcing in this world, and you do it from a place of shadow, it's going to shape your body, it's going to shape your emotions, and it's going to shape your energies. Everything you do, from fear, from self-criticism, from any of the 1,000 feelings and emotions that come from fear, is going to shape you physically, emotionally, and energetically. And doing it just once will shape you a little. It's like picking up an exercise weight and doing one curl. It's going to shape you a little. But if you go in that gym every day or several times a week and you lift that exercise bar, you're going to find that your pecs develop and your biceps and your wrists get stronger, and latimus dorsi, the lats, the shoulders, they all start to change. And if you do this in a healthy way every day, you're going to start becoming bigger and stronger, and you can easily lift that weight. Whereas, a few months ago, you could barely do one. Now you're doing 20. And it's not a problem. And at the same time, if you do it wrong, you're going to damage your system. I have told some of you about a friend, an acquaintance who was a professor, a really smart guy in his 50s. He decided to get in shape. So he decided to lift weights. Started lifting weights, and he did this for a few weeks, and it started to hurt. And he said, well, that means the muscles are getting stronger. So he kept doing it. And after 6 months of doing it, or 5 months, whatever it was, he was in so much pain he couldn't turn a doorknob. He couldn't type on his computer. He couldn't write. And he's a professor. That's a problem. And he went to see a doctor, and the doctor said, you're an idiot. What are you thinking? You're doing these exercises, but you're doing them all wrong. And you screwed up the muscles. Instead of stopping and letting the muscles heal, you kept doing them wrong. And day after day, you kept doing them wrong. And now your muscles are so screwed up, you're going to take a year of physical therapy just to get back to normal. This idea I talk about of light versus shadow is not some mythical Star Wars thing. It is the fundamental, core, critical essence of all of the energies in your world. Everything that comes in either gets expressed in light or in shadow. Everything. This isn't a myth. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the fundamental tenet of energies in your world. They are either done in light or in shadow. And because light and shadow are abstract and mythical, I'll make it simpler. They either come from joy, which leads to happiness and fun and play and dance and silliness and all these kinds of things, or they come from fear, which leads to criticism and anger and abuse and violence and aggression and war and terror. And every single action comes from joy or it comes from fear. And actions that come from joy are ultimately creative. So if joy and fear doesn't quite work for you, you can see it as creative versus destructive. When you say to a small child, "Oh, you're so smart, you'll figure this out in no time," that's building them up. It's creative. And the child says, "I'm smart, I want to do this more, this was cool." And if you say, "Oh, you're a stupid little kid, you'll never figure this out," smack, you've just torn that child down. That energy is destructive. And next time the child thinks about doing the thing, they're going to say, "No, I don't want to do that. That's scary, that hurts." Okay? Imagine a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old paints a picture, and mom says, "Oh, that's beautiful," and hangs it on the fridge. The kid wants to go paint more pictures. Right? But imagine mom's had a bad day, or mom's got a drinking problem or something, and she says, "Oh, you stupid little kid, you're wasting paper," rips it up and throws it away. That kid's never going to want to paint again. Now you can call those two expressions, joy and fear. You can call them light and shadow. You can call them creative and destructive. They all mean the same thing. They all point to the same place. Whether you're encouraging that child to build up or you're tearing it down, creating or destroying. And it's not just true with small children, it's true in your life. If you've been married for 50 years and your spouse comes in and says, "I got you a flower," and you say, "Oh, that's wonderful, you were thinking of me." Even if you don't like the flower, "Thanks, you did something wonderful for me." What you've done is create a bit of joy, of celebration, of harmony, of connection between you. And I think, "I want to do more things for you." If you say, "A flower? I don't need a flower." Pfft. That person's not going to want to do anything for you again. What you've done is destructive. You've destroyed a little bit of the relationship between you. And if you do this every day you destroy a little bit, there's going to be nothing but hatred and fear and bitterness between you. And every day, instead, if you do a little bit of joy, even in the small things, there's going to be this powerful and wonderful relationship between you. Right? And it's not just children, it's not just relationships, it's true in yourself. If you speak to the inner child, and you say, "Oh, you're doing wonderful. Yeah, I know you don't get that, but you're trying. I'm so proud of you." That inner child piece is going to say, "Yay, I want to do more." And if you smack it in the head and say, "You stupid kid piece, how can you screw this up again?" And you say, "Oh, I'm such an idiot, I can never get this. Ah, rah, rah, rah." What you do is going to make that inner child piece shut down and be angry and frustrated and bitter. The inner relationship between the male and female and yourselves, if they support one another and celebrate one another, then they're going to want to give and support more. If there is struggle between them, the male part of you is criticizing the female or vice versa. If this happens every day, it's going to be like the muscles in my friend's arms. The relationship is going to get more and more and more damaged, and in a short time they're going to need years of therapy just to get back to normal. This piece, this light versus shadow, this joy versus fear, it seems obvious to you. You've all heard it before. And yet, I'm not sure that everybody's getting it. I see some of you lately that every time I look at you, you're going, "Yay, this is great. Oh, this is wonderful. You look good." And just expressing happiness. And it's the other saying, "I don't get this. Oh, I'm an idiot. How could I screw this up? I gotta get this done." Oh. And all of these things that are creating tension and fear and frustration. And you say, "So what? I mean, whether I go yay and get it done or go rah and get it done, it still gets done. Right? I had to get this thing done, I got it done. And I got to a green belt. Who cares if I was saying rah all the time or yay all the time?" I would like you to imagine that you are sitting someplace. Perhaps you're at the base of a mountain and trying to go up. Right? Perhaps you're at the mouth of a river and you want to find where it starts. Perhaps it's a path through the woods you want to follow. Right? Imagine. You're one of these places, and you're moving in that direction. If the whole way through you're holding on to the light side, the creative, the joy, or the whole way through you're criticizing yourself and being violent and lashing out at people and running away and hiding and being frustrated and complaining, right? Both ways you'll get to the top of the mountain or the mouth of the river or through the woods. Right? But I want you to imagine that while you're sitting there, your physical body, your emotions moving in one direction, there's another piece at a deeper level, something you can't sense. You will, if you go on far enough, sense this. And for the sake of making it simple, I'll call it your soul. It's not, that's just a word, but it's close enough that it will help you understand. With every decision you make in the light, your soul moves a little further into the light. Every decision you make in the shadow, your soul moves a little in the shadow. Every decision to create, you become more creative. Every decision to destroy, you become more destructive. Okay? So you're walking through the woods, and you're saying, oh, I hate the woods, so many mosquitoes, there's probably poison oak or something out there, and oh, wolf, it's dangerous, I hate this, rawr, rawr, rawr. You're making it through the woods, but that piece below what you can perceive, that piece I'm calling your soul, is moving further and further into shadow. If at the same time, the same path, you're saying, oh, that's a beautiful tree, I love the sound of the birds, the smell of, the fresh green is really wonderful, and you're celebrating, while you're moving through the woods, that soul is moving further and further into the light. Alright? Someday, every one of you will die. Now, maybe that's something you don't want to think about, but it's not like you get to negotiate it. Someday, every one of you will lay down and stop breathing, and your body will quit. But this deeper piece, this soul, will go on. And that you made it through the woods or to the top of a mountain isn't particularly useful. Because that's what you did with your body, and your body's now laying in the ground or, burned to ashes and stuck in a box somewhere. But that soul piece goes on. And so if in a lifetime every decision you make takes you further into shadow, that soul piece becomes a thing of shadow. And the next lifetime you have, you'll be given the same choices. And if you get lots done, but it's all done in shadow, that soul begins to look more and more like a Sith Lord, like one of the Roman Catholic cardinals, like the Emperor in Star Wars. It looks more corrupt and dark and twisted and has a harder and harder time. It's not enough to get a green belt. It's not enough to get a blue belt. It's not enough to get a yellow belt. It's about how you change why you're getting that thing. Do you guys know why we have belts? Maybe? Well, the most obvious reason is so that the other people can look at you and say, oh, you're a blue belt and not a yellow belt, I should listen to you more. Right? It helps others to know whether they can listen to you. A second reason, perhaps, is that as you get to higher belt levels, you can teach more. And really, it's in teaching this stuff that you come to understand it. Right? But neither of these is the important reason. The important reason that there are belt levels is what I would call the stairway to heaven. Now, how many of you think I can go lay some bricks outside and make a single step? I can do this, right? I get enough bricks, I can make another step. Right? I start putting structures, I can make a really, really tall staircase. I'm probably not going to make it high enough to knock airplanes out of the sky, but I can make a very tall staircase. Right? If I had all the resources of your world, I could make an elevator to space. That technology's been out there for 20 plus years. An elevator to space. We discussed this and debated it in a club I was in when I was in junior high school. That's almost 30 years ago. It is 30 years ago. We could make an elevator to space. How many of you think that if you could make your staircase high enough or ride an elevator to space, you'd come out at the top floor and be at the pearly gates and see heaven? Mm-mm. You're not going to get there. What you're going to get is into the stratosphere or, I don't know, the mesosphere or some sphere. A stairway to heaven is something that shows up in many mythologies. Even modern mythologies, like, what is it, Led Zeppelin, the song? Mm-hmm. When I was in the monastery, there's an image of a ladder going from earth up to heaven, and monks struggling to climb up it, and the devil's trying to push them off. This idea shows up in many places. Right? Why would it show up in so many places if it's impossible? Right? The Tower of Babel didn't actually reach up into heaven, and God says, "Oh, they're going to be knocking on my door next week. I better knock that down." The elevator to space is not going to open you to the pearly gates. Why would this be such a common theme if it's impossible? See, the reason it seems impossible is that you misunderstand. The stairway to heaven is not something that takes you up high enough that you get to some mythical heaven. The stairway to heaven is a description of the process as you grow more and more aware until you come to realize what matters, till you come to find the amazing peace inside. The past and the future are interesting, but they are tiny, pale shadows of the power of what is inside you right now. What's inside you right now? This is the piece I call the soul. It is in finding that soul and reconnecting to it that you discover what heaven is. This greater awareness of who you are. This sense of peace and power and joy. This wonder and mystery that lasts between lifetimes. This is something that most people never discover, but it's there to be discovered, and it's inside. The stairway to heaven, the mythical idea, is a series of steps you follow to get closer and closer to discovering the soul inside. I hope that's not too abstract. See, you could go to your job every day, you could do lots of amazing things in the world, you could be an astronaut or a scientist or an explorer or whatever, and never discover the soul. It's discovered by a series of steps that lead back to the self. Right? This is what the elf path belts are really about. They are this stairway. There is a series of steps that help to lead you back to yourself. This is the primary reason there are belts. They are the stairway that leads you back to the wonderful, powerful, amazing thing inside. The soul. Does that make any sense? Right? These are steps that lead you back to yourself. Back to not your physical self, to your real self. Now remember a little while ago I spoke of walking up a mountain or through the woods, but your soul is at a deeper level, moving in a different direction, into light or shadow. And it makes those tiny steps further towards the light or shadow, not by what you do in this life, but by the attitude you hold while you're doing it. You walk through that woods with an attitude of joy and celebration, your soul moves more into the light, and it's easier to see and find and discover. You walk through that woods with anger, bitterness, frustration, anything of shadow, your soul moves further into shadow, and you'll never be able to find it. Okay? The elf path is a path, the stairway. Okay? But it's physical things. It's exercises, it's sweets, it's understanding the men and fen, it's opening the heart, it's this world exercises. You can do all those steps. You might even be able to make it to black belts while making